Hey there, welcome to my channel. My name is Papi Nicolaou and tonight we're gonna be talking about your stream transitions. Now I'm gonna show you my transitions and then deconstruct them so that if you want to construct your own, you are more than welcome to do so. And at the very end of the video, I'm also going to tell you where you can actually download yours for free, so make sure you stick until the end of the video. Now right now we are on my chat screen and at this very moment I will be having a great chat with my audience. We will be having fun in between the transition of the matches, which is I do play currently Apex. It's one of my favorite games. Now when it's time for you to actually jump into the game, this is kind of the transition that I have on my stream. Voila! And now we're back into the action, we're having awesome gameplay and we're having fun playing the game. Now when the match is actually over, what I'm usually doing, I'm transferring back to my chat screen just to have some personal touch and personal moments with my chat. And this is how I do it. Voila, and we're back in the chat screen. Now let's get back to the studio so that I can show you how everything's positioned, how you can make your own, and that way you'll be able to have as smooth transitions as many of the great streamers nowadays. We're back in the studio and let's talk about the transitions and why they're so important on your stream. Now stream transitions have been around the Twitch and the streaming community for quite some time. Now it's not something new that has been created, but mostly it was borrowed from the modern media, especially the news show, whenever they switch from one type of the camera into another one, or from one segment of their news show into another one. Now Twitch streamers were really fast to implement the same technique, and one of the first movers was actually Dr. Disrespect, when he introduced his impeccable production into his stream back when he started streaming back again from his really long away from the gaming world. Now transitions are not just the flair and the animation on the stream, it actually adds to your storytelling as well. Now what you have to remember is that streaming is a form of storytelling, and the way that you tell your story and pace your story is really important for the viewer to keep up with your stream and the message that you try and deliver on your stream. Now in an example that I just showed you of the stream transition that I have from the chat into the game, my transition serves a purpose. And that purpose is to get that attention from the chat in a really fast and somewhat aggressive movement and pull it right into the game and saying let's go as a sign that we're ready to win and crush this specific gaming session. Now on the other hand, when I'm done playing the match and I'd like to have some personal touch with my chat and have them interact and just have an amazing time talking to you guys in the chat, I have a really slow and smooth transition and relaxing in order to have that warm feeling back into the hands of the viewer instead of having this really aggressive pull towards the chat. As you can see, the storytelling actually matters a lot in the transitions, and they add to your stream in the style that you want it to have, and not just having a random shutting doors in front of the camera and then just another scene appearing. Now let's talk about the technical side. The technical side behind these transitions is what you might expect to be somewhat a magic trick. Now the reason why I'm saying it's a magic trick is because whenever a magician shows you a magic trick, they're trying to pull your attention from what they're actually doing, where the magic happens, to distract you from that transition. And that attention trick works the way that whenever something fully covers the front screen and you're not able to see what's happening behind it, that's where the magic happens. And the magic is turning one scene off and turning the other scene back on. And then once the transition swifts back across the screen, you pretty much already see a completely different scene. Now let's deconstruct my own transitions with all the delays and all the parameters that I can give it to you so that you can recreate your own with exactly the same methodology. Now you can achieve exactly the same methodology by either running a program on your computer that runs macro pre-recorded actions, or use an Elgato Stream Deck. I'm personally using Elgato Stream Deck because it's easier for me to punch in those buttons. I'm not at the same time recommending you to buy one if you're on a budget. What I'm going to do instead, I'm going to put in the description below the link where you can download a macro program that's going to run exactly the same parameters and exactly the same macros for your stream to enable you to exactly have the same result. Now let's deconstruct my 2-game transition because it seems to be the most favorite one that I have questions mostly on my stream. Now, the order that it happens is, you can see here in the stream deck, there are a couple of actions that are happening in the background. So let's start from the very beginning. From the very beginning, we have a transition 2-game animation being activated. After that, we have a delay for about 0.55 seconds. That's the amount of time that my animation takes to cover a full screen so that the transition can happen right behind it. After that, my chat source that I have right behind the animation, when it just covers the full screen, it goes off, it turns off the visibility, and after that I have my main gaming stream appearing right behind it. Now, as you can see, whenever I do that kind of transition, my camera slides from the left side, my border slides from the right side with quite a bit of an animation, and then my face cam appears right behind it. That way down is with an overlay transition animation that then being activated with a slight delay, because it takes somewhat about 11 milliseconds for that activate. That gives it enough of the time to slide in front of the gameplay, because the source is placed right on top of the gameplay. Then there's another delay for about 0.6 seconds while the animation of the overlay appearance goes through its full circle, and after that my OBS Studio source of the border that you're currently seeing right here with my camera, with my flame, and with my overlay appears right behind it. Now at the same time, I made sure that there's also a delay after that for about 5 seconds, just to make sure that the macros are not rushing through and everything is done to maximum optimize my CPU usage, because that's exactly what you're using in order to do those kind of transitions. You will see a CPU spike when you're streaming or when you're doing a transition. That is because your computer uses that CPU power to turn on and off the scenes in your stream. So then that's exactly the reason why I give it a 5-second delay to cool off, so that my CPU is not gonna suddenly explode, which I mean it's not, but I'm overly exaggerating in terms of the overpowering my CPU on the stream. So then what happens, I have my overlay transition to be turned off, as well as my transition to the game animation turned off. Now the reason why those two steps are really last is because they're done and they're not looping anymore. So there's no more logical reason to have them to be active in the background and being rendered by my GPU, which has much more important things to do, like rendering the actual gameplay that I'm streaming. So now you've seen a more technical side behind the transition and how many steps it takes to include and achieve for that smooth process. Now one of the most important caveats that I ran into is my gaming screen. Whenever it pops up and being activates, it only activates for 1/4 of the screen, which I was able to actually fix by having it separated from my actual overlay that appears a bit later. So the way that I fixed it, I made sure that my gameplay capture appears slightly before my overlay does, so that it gives it a full space and availability of that split second to render and actually focus on the most important thing, which is the smoothness of the transition. Now another second most common caveat that you might have is actually placing your sources in the right order. Now what you want to do is you want to have your transition animation to be on the top part of your sources portion, whereas all the gaming and all the chat screens, you want to have them all the way at the bottom side of the sources, because those are the mutually exclusive things that you would like to separate, because like I mentioned previously, it's a magic trick. You're trying to cover the full screen with the animations, so therefore they have to be taking the highest place in the hierarchy of your sources on your scene. Now another thing which is important is the audio. Now if you have audio of your microphone in different scenes, and you would like to maintain exactly the same quality of the audio, here's what you're gonna do. You have to delete the audio from all of the scenes that you're using, such as for example the chat or your gameplay, and include it into your scene separately, so that your mic doesn't cut off when you do those transitions between one scene and another one. Now at the same time, if you want to create your own transitions and you don't want to use the generic ones that are presented to the majority of the public, there are a couple of sources that I'm going to link down below that will give you some of the animated products that you can download and you can maneuver around in your post-production or animation software, which personally I use After Effects. It's quite expensive to get one. There are multiple other platforms that will allow you to achieve exactly the same result. But nevertheless, you need the right assets, which I'm going to provide in the link below, that you can actually download either for free or for really small fee, so that you can have your own transitions designed either by yourself or by a professional designer that you would like to have either on Fiverr or Dribbble. Because there's 1 second split when the transition happens behind the scenes, when you have one of your scenes that you have implemented as sources turns off and another one turns back on. I hope this video helped you a ton. If it did, please leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. It would help me out a ton, and I'll be making a lot more videos like this to help you out to get your stream on the right note. And until then, I'll see you guys later.